Constitution that every state must adhere to and follow, and if a federal standard needs to be created so that all the states are equal in that because they refuse to do it on their own, so be it.
Final question to Senator Amodei.
Senator Amodei, the three of you have very similar talking points on most issues. So what makes you stand out above the other two men on the stage?
Great question. And I would agree with the first part of that. I don't think we're going to get anybody out of this race that's going to go back and raise taxes, raise the debt ceiling, get rid of the Second Amendment, or any of that other sort of stuff. I hope that the decision is going to be made. One of the important things that you consider is who has got the depth of background in the district. Who's got those relationships out the 80 corridor, the 50 corridor, up and down the 395 corridor, both personally and by growing up, but also with 14 years of public service. And you get to that 14 years of public service because the people that you were fortunate enough to be given the job sent you back, so you can say you left that process by virtue of the applications of term limits, not because you abused your trust or did a bad job. When you're reelected your last 2 times to the state senate by 80%, which is about 1/6 of this district, I hope that that's something that you'll consider to say, you know what, maybe it was about the people that gave that guy the job, and not that guy himself. He worked for the people who gave him that sacred trust of representing them for that district. He knows the issues, whether it's mining in Elko, he knows the issues, whether it's grazing in Eureka County, he knows the issues, whether it's surface transportation in Washoe County, he knows the issues, whether it's what you do for the third straw coming out of Lake Mead for water for Southern Nevada, because guess what? There's about 61 precincts in CDT right now that are in Clark County. So that's depth of knowledge across the state, 24 years in the private sector in this state, grew up in this state, educated in this state, raised my kids in this state, and have served the public for the last 15 years in the state. I think that gives you a sound basis from which to judge my qualifications.
I grew up in Nevada. Left here, went off and served the nation in the Navy for 26 years. While I can't stand up like other two gentlemen on here and give a list of legislative accomplishments, what I can offer you is life experiences that I achieved going around the world defending U.S. interests. When you look at what we have to do here at home, this is not a time, this is not an election for business as usual politics. You must be picking someone that you know is going to go to Washington that represents your values, your ethics, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You need to select someone to go back to Washington that has the leadership and the integrity and the principles and the strength of character to hold fast when there is tremendous heat being put on them by the Obama administration, by the old guard Republicans that are back there. And the reality of it is, I have stood fast when lives are at stake. I will stand fast when it comes to representing you in Congress, because I have those experiences from a lifetime. I left Washington after I retired to come home to Carson City because I believe in Nevada, I believe in you, and I believe that I can go back and best represent your interests in Washington.
I think that's probably the most important question of the evening, and let me describe my answer this way. I have enormous respect for both Mark and Kirk. Both have been committed to public service, and we all appreciate that. Kirk and I have similar backgrounds. We both served in the Navy at the same time, doing the same things in different parts of the world. It's a big Navy, we didn't know each other, but I have tremendous respect for his service. I think this position, though, that we're picking a candidate for commands more than military experience. If you haven't been there as a legislator, making the tough calls in the trenches, beating back the special interests, taking unpopular decisions and positions on votes, then you don't know what it's like in Congress. I've been there, I've done that. I think it's tremendously important for our next congressman to be able to hit the ground running, somebody who has worked in Washington, as I have, somebody who has served as a legislator, someone who has been there, done that on the toughest issues of the day. Mark has that experience. He served in Carson City. But the difference between Mark and me is that we have different records in that regard. My record in Carson City is one of fighting for balancing budgets without raising taxes. In 2003, Mark was part of the effort. He co-sponsored a bill to raise what would have been the biggest tax increase in state history. That doesn't make Mark a bad person. Mark's a friend. I'd love to have a beer with Mark anytime. But it makes him, in my view, on the wrong side of where Republicans are right now in 2011 with respect to taxes, spending, and the size of government. The other issue that I have a different record from Mark on is collective bargaining and public sector employee power. Mark spent a career in the Senate fighting for the expansion of collective bargaining rights for state employees, state employees.
You got 5 seconds, sir.
I have fought against that. Our records are different in that regard. Again, I respect their service, but you have a clear choice here. I have a conservative record, I have the right experience, and I will be a strong voice in Washington, D.C.
I tricked you at the beginning by not giving you a minute each to make a statement, but I will give you a minute each to do a closing statement, and obviously Senator Amodei would want to respond. So, Kurt Lippel, if you would give your final minute statement to the audience and why they should vote for you.
Our nation is facing huge issues. Debt, which is a national security issue, which is our ability to safeguard our interests around the world. Just because we killed bin Laden, this nation is not safe. Every one of us can remember back to September 11th. That's an important day. September 12th is the other one. I never want to wake up. I never want you to wake up with that pit in your stomach. You weren't worried about your job. You weren't worried about the dog. You were worried about, are my children safe? Where is my family and are they safe? And is my nation safe and what's going to happen next? I will do, having experienced a terrorist attack personally, whatever it takes to keep this nation safe. That's one. Two, when it comes to legislative experience, you're right. I may not have it. I don't even pretend to live in the shadow of the giants of the history of our country when it comes to our founding fathers, but neither did they. They took life experiences and went on to build the greatest nation on the face of the earth and give us the tools that still hold true today.
Thank you, Commander. That's what I'm
Set to summarize this in a minute, let me just thank everybody for being here. Thank NVRA, thank the panelists, thank my family. My wife Lauren is here, my daughters Haley and Caitlin. Couldn't do this without you. It comes down to this, in my view. It's experience, electability, and effectiveness. I'm the only one up here that has Washington experience as a legislator, and has a conservative record of fighting for what I think we all believe in, that is smaller government, lower taxes, reduced spending. Electability. I can win this race. Believe me, the Democrats are going to put everything they have into this. We need to nominate somebody who can meet that challenge, raise the money, and make sure we're victorious in September. And finally, effectiveness. As I said, I've served in Washington. I know how Congress operates, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You can't start on September 14th without Washington experience, without legislative experience, and expect to be effective for the people of Nevada. I've been there. I know the place. I know its flaws. What can be done, what can't be done. I can be a strong voice for you, and I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. Thanks to the Republican Assembly. The reason that I'm the best choice is this. I was the only one up here that was there in 2003. That's because I got elected with 80% of the vote. I didn't lose my race to Sharon Angle, and that bill was not done in a vacuum. That bill was done as a way to defeat the Nevada IRS. So think about that. This state with an income tax? No way. Katie Gwynn had just been reelected to his last term, and you know what? He had the votes in finance to raise it for $1 billion, and Governor Brian Sandoval sued us for a revenue plan. Our bill showed him a way to do it without having an income tax in Nevada. That's a fact, and I stand by it. And that statement also ignores the fact that in 2009, I got 23 points above a friend of the taxpayer by the MPRI. And you get that for voting against budget, folks. Remember when we talked about spending? But nobody mentions that. You make your judgments and I'll respect them. But you know what? I want you to have all the facts, and I'm not up here just telling you part about the other folks. And the collective bargaining stuff was a way to try to blow up the teachers union, who we are still under the thumb of financially. And I said that in my floor statement, but my opponents are not telling you that. Because you know what? It doesn't serve their political purpose. I will read the bills, I will fight for you, and I will always tell you the truth, which is what I've done for the last 14 years as a state senator and the last year as your state party chair. Thank you, good evening, and enjoy your summer.
legislators please do a very good job. And I'd also like to extend a big thanks to Paul Jackson and the Government Assembly, and to my colleagues Michael Hadley, Sean Parker, and Todd Griffin. And also, there's a lot of people here that I should actually introduce, but I'm not going to do it except with one person, which is to recognize Congresswoman Barbara Buchanan, who deserves everybody's applause. Thank you very much, everyone. We appreciate you taking the time.